You may well find that you can display your design much better if, rather than use single line text with quite a long entry of text information as has been done here, you put the same amount of information in an MTEXT. So if we go draw, it's text, it's used multi-line text rather than the straight text. If you do that, you can adjust the width of the box, move it down closer to the left-hand side. It's not going to go way over here when we look at the layout. So if we look at front landscaping, you can see our simple A-frame timber with monument colorbond sheet as rain protection for the bike sits very nicely in there, whereas this piece of text goes right off the side, and we would have to increase the size of our frame in order to see that. But when you use MTEXT, you might well want to adjust the line spacing in the MTEXT box. Select the box and come over to line space factor. It's by default 1. Let's change this to 0.8, and we've got a much neater block of text. You can use modify and match properties to match the properties of this MTEXT box to that one, and so we get I'll just move that so it's central and lined up with the one underneath. So now what I'm doing is shortening all of these text entries so that we get them relatively close and we won't have something bleeding off to the edge. The design here calls for a herb patch. The original drafter used an arrow that crosses lines in the design, and that looks somewhat ugly. It's much better if you can use, as we've done over here, we've used the MTEXT command to have a patch of text there rather than these individual lines, single lines of text. So by putting them all together in an MTEXT box, it's enabled us to delete the line, delete that arrowhead. So now all the labels and lines and so on are horizontal. So when we go to the front landscaping area there, I think we'll find that labeling is a little neater. So we're able, let's go back to the model, we're able to set not only the spacing in the MTEXT box, but I've now been able to change the alignment so that all the MTEXT boxes that run along here all have their alignment set by right. I'd like to show an easier way to put labels in. You might consider using the leader command. So if I pick dimensions and leader, if I wanted to indicate that lockable gate, all I need to do is point to the gate. I'll shift it up in a moment and across like so. I've got both a polar on, so I can do that and say OK. The advantage of using that is that it's completely flexible. You can, as I will do here, just get rid of that previous marker then, and then just move the whole leader into position like so, or if I repeat my leader command, I can start there if I like, then I can take polar off, come down here and then have my lockable gate like so. Once I've done that, I can move wherever I want to go in the drawing, moving it around just by grabbing its handle. And can you see that the arrowhead switches with me as I do it? So a leader provides you, I think, with a much more flexible way of labeling. You may remember that we indicated paved areas by using a polyline and then just filling the polyline. You could argue that that polyline's not quite well defined enough. What you can do is select the polyline and answer the question, has it a border, and change that to yes, and pick a dark colour for the border. And if we look at it now, we've got a clear demarcation. Well, I'd like now to introduce a scale bar. That gives us an internal marker in every layout sheet. So if I say Library Details and scroll down a little, we'll find the scale bar folder, and I'll pick up scale bar number 3 and insert it into this drawing, and we'll pop it down somewhere around there. In it goes. Let's now return to the front landscaping. Can you see now the scale bar is in there? if I zoom in on our title block and I put the same title block, it's not yet been exploded, but that same title block is on each of my layout sheets, and we've written scale 1xx at AX. What I'm now going to do is look at my floating viewport. Let's select it. You can see its view scale is 53. Now I could have a fixed scale of 50, but my preference is to leave it and rely on our 5 meter scale bar in here to give anyone who picks up the drawing, no matter what size it's been printed to, what sheet size, we've got an internal scale and an internal north marker, rather than have them built into this title block. Now before, let me just go back to rear landscaping. There's the same block, and we've got it, I think, on another block as well. What I can do, before I explode this block here on that sheet, what I can do is edit the block, and I could put in information here about the project. So I'll say, test project name Jane Doe, and so on. In other words, I can fill out all the information that is common to the various drawing sheets. That's been done in the block. So if I go to the rear landscaping, can you see if we go in here, oh whoops, I've got to close the block editor first. Then when I go back to rear landscaping, that information we just put in when we edit the block is in. So you can save a great deal of time by doing that. However, once we get back to this sheet, what I now want to do is explode that block information. From now on, no updating that block will be reflected here. But I'm going to change this to n.t.s. Whoops. Double click it to select it. NTS, not to scale, and pop that in. So we now have a drawing sheet ready to print, showing the layout and design for the front area of the house with its own internal scale, and we haven't got a fixed scale marker. I think that works reasonably well. Well, here is the full screen view printed to a PDF file, and I'm looking at it using Acrobat Reader. So this is how your print shop or your client would receive the drawing at the stage we're at now. And I'd recommend running a quick PDF print at various stages, especially when you get near the end of a design. Don't forget to use that green plus sign on the standard toolbar to save multiple versions, particularly as you get near the end of a design. As I look at this one, I would like to improve some of the layout of those symbols there. They look to me to be a little too regular. I'd like to change the scale of some of those, just slightly tweak the rotation angle of the symbols to introduce just a little more variable. There are some tools to help with that, but we won't go into them just now.